Let's start out with my breakdown. The way I would line up on top is my left hand, fingers would point down, and I would grab behind his elbow. My right hand would start on the stomach, and I would start with my weight pretty far forwards. I wanted as much weight on my opponent's hands at the beginning so that when the whistle blew, he couldn't explode up to his feet. So I would start left hand, fingers pointed down on the elbow, just like this, but on the opposite side, right on the stomach, and I would even push my weight forwards once I put my chest on his back. Now the ref might tell you to back up. If he does, then back up slightly. But I'd rather have the ref tell me to back up than not have enough weight on his hands initially. Once the whistle blew, I would always try to jump the whistle, actually. A little bit before the whistle blew, both my hands would grab the inside of his thigh, and I would try to lift his hips up and drive forwards. So as I drove forwards, I would try to pull on his thighs to lift his butt off his heels. Once I did that, my right knee would go behind him in between his legs, and my left knee would go in front, and I would pinch his left leg. Double thigh, drive forward at the same time. So as the whistle blew, my feet would go forwards as the hand transitions in. I would drive, 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 drive. Left knee would come in front, right knee would come behind, and I'm pinching his legs with my legs. So my legs are squeezing as tight as they can. My right knee is making sure that he cannot sit back. So it's essentially a chair for him. It's not up high like this on his back. It's low, almost behind his hamstring. That way, Will can't sit back. And then my left knee is in front so that Will can't slide his knees forward. And he can't sit back, which makes him stuck in this table position where his hips are off his heels. From here, my number one way to get the wrist would be an inside chop, or actually more of a spiral ride. So I would drive forward, drive, 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 drive. Knee would come in front, other knee goes behind, and I would hug his near shoulder. From here, the spiral ride I like to do is pull down on the shoulder and lift up on the legs. So I'd go like this. My goal is to get him to hit his elbow, and then my left hand would reach in for his wrist, and I would pull his wrist towards his chest. A little pointer I want to talk about is if Will tries to sit his hips low, I'm literally grabbing his thighs and lifting his hips off the mat. And I'm driving forward as much as I can. So I'm grabbing his thighs as I drive forward. I'm trying to lift him up. Even if his heels are still close to his butt, that's where I'll bring my other knee in front and start scraping the knee back. So look at that. My left knee, I start scraping his leg back and stepping my right leg in between. Now once I'm here, I grab the shoulder, I pull down on the shoulder, my right hand that's on the thigh is lifting up to put as much weight on this left hand as possible. So I drive, right when his elbow hits, I reach in, grab the wrist, pull it in. Once I have the wrist, I then like to get a Western hook and grab the far ankle. I drive forwards, my double thigh pride, knee goes in front, knee goes behind. I pull down the shoulder and I collect the wrist. Now, from here, I like to get a little bit more of a Western hook. I don't like going to both knees on my Western hook because I relieve pressure off of him. When I'm on both knees back here, he has no weight on his shoulders. I want to be more up here. So I have his wrist, but I'm still on top of him. From here, I grab his far ankle, I lift up, and that will break him flat to his stomach. I drive forwards, knee comes in front. Another thing I'll do, which I talked about a little bit earlier, is I'm scraping this knee backwards as I drive my right knee forward. So I'm trying to get his leg back, trying to scrape that leg back. And my bottom knee will actually be lower than my top knee. My left knee is lower than my right knee. So when I'm pushing, I'm sliding his knee back and pushing my right knee into the back of his hamstring. Okay, so that's what I'm doing with my legs. I'm sliding it back and my right knee is pushing forwards. Creates a lot of pressure on his leg. It makes it very difficult for him to fix position. Then I pull down, get the wrist, grab the ankle, lift up. I'll even lift up with the Western hook and flatten him out from there. Next way I'll break somebody down, or way it will play out, is if they're resisting for an inside leg stand-up. I'm going heavy pressure here. I'm trying to get to my good position, and they start going inside leg stand-up. So they start rotating here, and I'm really, really trying my hardest to do the first breakdown we just did. While I'm doing that, the bottom person is gonna compensate by resisting the pressure I'm driving this angle. So his hands will come over here. So bring both hands to your left. Yep, and he'll shift his weight, his right hip down to his right heel. So he'll really be resisting this pressure. The more he resists, the easier this second breakdown works. All I'm gonna do is take my arms and switch to a knee and ankle, and I'm gonna drive my hip into him sideways. And the hands are not as important as the hip. Most of the time I don't even actually go ankle knee. I just drive my hips in like a sprawl and collect his wrist. So I'm up here, I'm trying my hardest to get to that position, but he's really resisting. I'll wait till he starts rotating up, and then I'm gonna drive my hips across, check him with my arm, bump into him here, and then as he falls to that elbow, my hands are looking to collect that wrist. And normally once I get on top, very important high-level detail is pinching your knees on your opponent when they're on their side, okay? That makes it very difficult for them to bring their knees underneath of them. This is where Will wants to be. It's easy to escape from here. So I want to take my knees and pinch him here and collect his wrist. The next thing that would happen is some opponents would sit out. If they sit out, this is my favorite way to bring my opponent back to that same position we looked at in the beginning. Will goes to his sit out. I end up in a spiral position. My hands were already on the inside trying to go double thigh pry, but when somebody sits out, I like to go to the spiral position. From here, I go to the side of the hand that has the leg. So one hand has the shoulder, one hand has the leg. I circle that side, I shelf his leg up onto my leg, pull his shoulder down, and grab his wrist. A lot of times, I won't even have to shelf his leg up. I can just pull the shoulder down, grab the wrist. Normally I'll be up on my toes too, and I'll circle, pull the shoulder down, grab the wrist, and flatten him out. But if Will is doing a good job of taking his right elbow and scraping it on the inside here, it's very difficult for me to get enough pull this way to get his wrist. So as he goes to scrape, that's when I circle, reach for the leg, shelf it up, and collect that wrist and break him flat. And if you notice, every single breakdown I'm doing, I'm getting a wrist. And ideally, the position I like to get to is a one-on-one on this side, person flat on their stomach. Once he's flat on his stomach and I have his wrist, that's where I go to my hammer locks. So the first thing I'm looking for is getting his wrist onto his back. And there's 2 turns we do from here. I'm gonna show you guys real quick how I get the wrist on the back. All I'm gonna do is roll the wrist underneath his chest and put my forearm into the back of his tricep. I'm gonna keep my chest on top of him so that he's very difficult for him to build up as I pull the hand out on the back. I'll high leg back, I'll grab with 2 hands, pull it off, and then I push his arm across his back. As I do that, I'm pushing my hips in like a sprawl to try to push as much pressure into his arm and jam his arm, his knuckles almost to the mat on the opposite side. So not only are my arms pushing, my hips are pushing too to try to turn his hip down. Another little trick I'll do is a lot of times people will grab their own chest or stomach with their fingers to try to prevent you from pulling it out. So I'll take my right hand, the one that doesn't have the wrist, and I'll reach it under and I'll grab his fingers and rake them off of his stomach. Then I'll take the hand, put it on the back, same sprawl motion here, and I'm wrestling from there. I'll come out to the side here, I'll pull, I'll drive it across, and I stay on my toes the entire time. So when I was showing it earlier, I wasn't on my toes the entire time, but this is how I do it in a match. I'm really pressuring here, and I like to get back to stepping over one leg, so having my right leg in between his legs. Now from here, the first turn that I go to is finishing in a DJ position or cradle. I didn't really do the cradle that often from here, but I think the cradle is probably a better turn now that I'm post-college. So I'm gonna take my left elbow, or my left hand, I'm gonna let go of the wrist. So now I only have the wrist with my right hand. My left elbow is gonna go towards his head, and I'm gonna look to scrape his head into me and scrape his leg into me. So I'm looking for essentially a cradle position. From here, what I would do is let go of the wrist and slide it underneath. It's very common for people to slip their elbow free at the end here. So you'll be trying to feed your arm through and they'll slip down this way, okay? So make sure your shoulder is sliding low or your chest is sliding below his shoulder and you're really trying to get underneath not only his arm, but his shoulder itself. If you can get your chest underneath his shoulder and you can lift him up here, you're gonna get the pin. My hand reaches out in post so I don't get flipped. This is where I'll normally unhook my leg and finish in a T, right? Finish in the letter T. So I'm here, hold on the back. I'm not gonna show you how to do that every time, so just take the previous section of the video, make sure you watch that on how to get this arm on the back, all right? But we're here, I'm pressuring like crazy. I take my leg and I start scraping this thing and try to get his hip down as much as possible. So my hand's pushing his hip down, my leg is scraping towards his knee, and I'm trying to create that cradle position. My elbow goes to his head, I lean over while I keep the pressure here. Try to scrape him up, lift him up onto me as much as possible. All right, and then you can't miss it here. You can't make a mistake here. Shoulder low, slip the hand down, drop your shoulder even lower. That little adjustment there where your shoulder drops, super important. Start looking for the pin. Big base with your legs, post your hand, and get the pin there. Here's 2 examples to the exact same kid. I'm grabbing his chin, yanking it into me, and making him face me. Then I'm threading to that DJ half Nelson position and driving him over. I do this again from a different angle because I ended up not getting the pin here. Roll the wrist on the back, a lot of pressure, being very physical with the head, scooping him into me and up, like lifting him up into me. Then I thread my arm. Normally I'll take my leg out, circle towards the head. Now if he turns his hip down, this is where I go to the claw tilt. So I have the hand in the back. I'm trying my best to pressure him to his hip, but he's gonna bring the opposite knee up. I'm wrestling here. From here, I'm gonna reach under and get a claw. You can also grab the shoulder. The claw works better. People grab the shoulder because they can't get to the claw. As I go for the claw, my right leg steps up big. My right knee goes in the back of his elbow, and I make sure to keep his hand on his back. If I lift the hand off the back, the ref will stop the match, okay? So I put the knee on the elbow, I pull him over top, and my right leg throws in between his legs. I hook it with my heel, and I hold him in this position here. As long as you keep the hand, it's very difficult for them to get out of that position. So I'll show you guys this one again. I'm here, turns this hip down. I'm really trying to turn him here. Pressure's not working. Get underneath here. If I can only get the shoulder, I'll get the shoulder. Big step up. If you can put the knee on the back of the elbow, that helps turn him over a little more. I pull up, throw the leg in. So again, you can have the shoulder or the claw, depending on what you can reach. Pull him back here. And the key is just holding that wrist. If he bridges, I can do a little kick with the legs. And I could throw a half Nelson if I want to come on top. Here I'm going for my claw tilt. The biggest thing is making sure your opponent has their left side down. So if there's any space underneath that armpit, see he starts turning away, I can reach in for that claw, drive up and over top of his shoulder, and hold him in that position for back points. If you're enjoying these instructional videos and you want help building out your personal wrestling system, go and check out the Iron Faith Academy. Link will be in the description or in the pinned comment at the top. You can start your 7-day free trial today. Now I do want to just show you guys one thing. While you're trying to take this hand out on the back, the bottom person is going to try to get to his base. So the best way to get out of the hammerlock position is getting to your base. So get up to your base, and that will allow Will to kind of slip his arm back in front of him, okay? So as either, if I have the arm in the back, or as I'm doing it, if I feel this knee coming up, I'm just gonna take my elbow and block. Prevent him from building this base up, okay? And then circle this way. And my leg does it too. My leg has that Western hook, so I'm wrestling here. So I'll just redo the breakdown if I have to, right? So if he starts building up, I'll block or grab the ankle and just redo the breakdown we did earlier. Western hook, ankle. So if I'm taking the hand on the back, he starts building up, I'll just come here and wrestle on this ankle here, lift it up, bring him back flat, and go back to this position. Really, really important. You can also, if they're building up with this knee, you can do this little trick. So turn this way more. If Will is building up with his left knee, I'll take my feet, and I'll grab his ankle with my feet. And then I do a sprawl and straighten his leg out. So he can no longer use his left knee to build a base. So now he can't use his left knee, he can't use his right knee, and I'm gonna keep him flat the whole time. That's a very high level technique right there. So that's the difference, those little details are the difference that got me to be able to hold the best wrestlers in the country down, was adding those little details and using my feet, wrist, ankle, Western hook. Once I got that, I knew I was gonna stay on top. Very difficult people get out of that position. The next move was my best pinning combination, and it is illegal in everything but college and freestyle wrestling. Once I'm here, and I have the one-on-one, whether I have it or not, what I'm gonna do is use my legs to get his ankle. So that's actually rotate half, yeah, right there. So you can have the one-on-one or not. Maybe you couldn't get the one-on-one and you couldn't do the hammerlock series. So you just wrestle him here. From here, my right leg that's in between, high legs back, and I plant it on the floor. I'm here, I have weight on his upper back so he doesn't base up, and I do this. Middle leg hooks the ankle, plants. I plant it on the floor. Left knee pushes into his left knee. So my knee's pushing into him, I'm back hooking his ankle. Not down at the shin, I'm up as high as possible. The higher you are on the leg towards the shoe, the harder it is for him to get out. The only way he can get out of this position is by crawling forward, so I just block the knee just like we did earlier. Grab his ankle, mainly I block the quad though, because the ankle's far to reach from this position. So I block the quad, keep him here. So one more time with that, it's very key. I'll be messing with the head, I'll go like this, boom. I'll turn to my body's facing away from him, and I'll catch here. Once I high leg back, my foot is planted on the mat, my right hand grabs the laces. This locks him in place. If he tries to build up with his base, I'll push on his quad and make sure he can't build up to his base. From here, I use my other hand to grab the laces, and I re-grab elbow deep behind his laces. My elbow is where his laces are. And I grab the ankle. I'll move the foot however I have to, so I have an actual grip on his heel. This is very important. Once I got to this position, if I was able to, I knew I was gonna get the pin. If I got like here, it's not the same thing. I had to be elbow deep, and I had to grab a hold of his ankle, okay? From here, I used my forearm on his back to keep him down as I went to both knees. Once I went to both knees, I lifted his leg up in between my legs, and I took a big step over top of his body. Then I reached in for a crossface, and I fell to my forehead, just like this. I think besides a cradle, I think it's the hardest move to get out of, for sure. So maybe, yeah, probably harder than a cradle. So I high leg back, grab the heel. You guys, already saw this part. I have this position, I just wanna show you from this angle, right? Once I come up here, I pull the leg up, and I'm sitting on this leg a little bit. I'm putting weight down as I pull up. Big step, I start attacking his head, and I look to fall to my head. From here, after I get my back points, I'm gonna take his foot and I'm gonna grab it. So I'm gonna switch my grip. Then I'm gonna take my left foot, which I don't know if you can see from this angle, but I'm gonna take my left foot and hook his right leg. I'm gonna go up on my head, take my leg out, and do a Turk. From here, you bring your chest back and you get the pin. I'll loosen this up a little bit for Will, but you can just keep pulling his foot to his head, okay? I'll show one more time from a different angle so you guys got all the little details in, okay? So I'm here, messing with the wrist, trying to get that hammer lock. It's not working. Boom, back here, catch. Everything's super tight. I'm pulling it up into me, really gripping it tight. Back, or forearm or hand on the back, I come up, pull the leg up my butt. I'm gonna have to take that out, all right, Will? Take a big step over, start driving him over towards his back. Once I'm here, look at my left foot, hooks the leg to keep his legs apart. I step out, I go to a Turk position, chest on chest, drive his shoulder to the mat to get the pin. This was my #1 pin in college. I'm turning the opposite way, flicking the foot up, controlling with my right hand, and then re-grabbing twice until I have the heel super deep, using my forearm to push up, and then driving up and over my opponent's right shoulder and turning him over. In this example, my opponent turns his right hip down, so I can't flick it up as easily, but I'm still able to control that foot with my right, and then my left, then re-grab around the heel. Forearm goes to the back as I push up to my knees, and I start attacking that chin and driving him up over his right shoulder. Putting his foot towards his head also helps control him from that position. Again, flicking the foot up, re-grabbing twice, forearm on the back, pulling that leg up, and driving over, attacking his chin. I'm also using my left foot in this case to elevate his right knee and to help get him more towards his back. Last example, I'm wrestling multiple time All-American Bernie Truax. Flick his foot up, control the heel, put my forearm on the back, and you're gonna notice how I pin from this position. I take my left foot, put it behind his knee, and then I step out of this position with my right leg, and I end up going to a normal Turk position. I slide my chest back and get the ball. The next thing I would look for, if I couldn't get either of these attacks, is getting the other wrist. So I use the near wrist to put on his back and do the hammerlock. If I couldn't get that, I could also attack the other wrist. Once I attack that wrist, he would then go to roll it out to get it free, and I would post my hand right where his hand was posted. This will stop him from bringing his elbow in and getting his arm back underneath of him. Then my left hand comes across for a crossface, pinky goes on the top of the elbow joint, my hands wrap around his tricep. I then put my knuckles to the mat so that Will can't reach in and peel it off. So I wrestle a lot from here. If I wanted to ride somebody out, I knew I could get a crossface, and it was very difficult for Will to peel off. If he tries to belly out, I just keep raising that elbow to the ceiling and keeping my knuckles on the mat. Now, there's two moves I'd hit from here. One, if Will was doing what he's doing now, I would just take my left leg and dig it into his hip and throw my leg in. Then I would lock a figure four up, jump over, and turn his face into me to do my figure four turn. Turn this angle real quick. So as I go to get this crossface, if I see him hipping down, I even use my right leg. So I use this leg to almost scrape it into me so that there's space in his hip. And then look at how high I throw my foot up into his hip. I slide the leg in, and then I dive, change the crossface to put my forearm on his face, turn his face into me, and look to get my back points here. And then if he ever turned his other hip down, so I go crossface, if he turned his other hip down, or at any point I saw this knee come up, hand post behind the knee, I run my feet towards his head, I lift his head up, and I spike his face into his knee, grab my own wrist, circle back, and get the pin. The only other pin that I would get to would be some sort of cradle when they tripod it up. So go up to your base. So if I was wrestling here and my opponent came to a tripod, I would either look for a near side cradle or come back, or a far side cradle, right? I'm coming here, I jump to far side. So if I was really struggling to keep the guy flat, that's the last thing I would look for. But all the stuff I showed first is really the bread and butter to my turns. Last thing I want to touch on is the mat return portion. This is something I was very, very good at. I got a lot of turns in college, but I was actually really good at holding people down. Some of those details we talked about, the one-on-one Western hook ankle ride, you've got 3 posts taken away, his hand and his 2 feet. There's no way he's gonna get up just based on one arm. So similar with the mat returns, this is the strategy I would use to keep the person down. So my opponent's on his base. As he starts rotating up, I get my knees to that same position. So go ahead and come up to quad pod. I would get my knees pinched on his leg the same way if we were on the mat. And I make sure to take my back leg and point it into him. So turn sideways. I take my back leg and I point it forwards. That makes it easy for me to push my knee into him, which in turn pushes my quad into his hamstring. And it puts a lot of weight on his hands. From here, most of the time, I would be able to just prevent him from coming up to his feet. So I would use my feet, pinching and driving my toe forward to bring him back to his knees. Sometimes, let's move back a little bit. Sometimes I would add a chop. So even if he got to his quad pod and I was pinching here, I was in the spiral position. If I felt like a chop would break him down, I could chop him down to his knees, back down to his elbow and collect his wrist. Then I'd be back in the same position. Wrist, Western hook, ankle, break him flat. And then because I was really big on pinching that leg and making it difficult for him to get out of this position, anytime he did stand up, the mat returns were pretty easy. So I was pinching here, and if he did get his hands off the mat, he was almost falling forwards already. So I would be able to lock my hands low around his waist, lift, and bring him back to his hip, and then it's all the same stuff. This is the sit-out position, right? Grab a wrist, break him flat, look for my Western hook, and now we're in that same position. And I would even go claw tilt if I didn't have the wrist on the back. So if I was in this position with Will, and I didn't have his wrist on his back, I could still step up, claw, and throw a leg in. If he's giving me that much of a turn, if he's turned like on his hip like that, right? And then the last mat return that I really do like, that I just want to share with you guys, is once my opponent got to his feet, and he did a really good job of not letting me pick a side, so kind of posting here. I like doing a mat return from behind, so my feet would come back so he could no longer touch my knees. I would jump my legs in between, I would lift him up onto me, and then I would use my knee and my arms to twist him, get him back to his base, then again, collect a wrist, break him flat. Now I don't like this side, so I go to this side. I always go back to the same position that I showed in the beginning, a wrist, a Western hook, an ankle. If I was to redo my top wrestling, here's the two things I would have changed. So I was good, but I actually didn't turn as much as I would have liked to. Only times I turned a lot of times was when I got pins. Off of the bow and arrow that I showed, or cradle sometimes. I would have gotten really good at a roll through tilt from the base, and then I would have also gotten even better at cradles. So those are the two things I would have done different on top. I would have gotten better with cradles, and I would have been better. I would have gotten a roll through tilt down because I had no way to get quick back points.
Here's one quick example of me using a figure 4 ride to get a turn. I'm initially trying to go for my hip whip or crossface turn, but I end up transitioning to a side headlock. I didn't show this specific turn in this instructional video, but it is in the leg riding instructional video we have. So you can see here I'm transitioning to a half Nelson to look for the back points.
Hope you guys enjoy my top system. If you want to see my entire neutral system, click the video right here.